stop watching this video.
Probably want to close those windows. Hey everybody. We're in a different position in our temple. I'm sure you've noticed if you've ever watched one of our live videos. We are now in the west. Decided to move things around a little bit. Ian was getting ready to do a video, and then we discovered ants had taken up residence in the router. So it didn't happen, but we're here anyway. So here we go. Hi, Scott. Welcome. How are you guys doing this week? Ian says hello and welcome. Please participate at will. Looks like a bunch of people have shown up. Jacqueline says, I'm here. Yay, hello, Siofra and Ian. Hi, Jacqueline. Nice to see you on one of our lives. So, we've had an interesting time since our last live show. Hi, Aaron. My granddaughter's father passed away. They found his body right in the middle of our live show. So, it's been a little bit intense, I guess, for other members of the family. It's been kind of interesting. Julia says, oh man, that was timed just right. Hello, everyone. Hi, Julia. So it's always an interesting subject when that comes up, with people suddenly passing away unexpectedly and so forth. So there have been a lot of conversations around that, and grief, and people worry that they're grieving wrong when there's no one way to do it, kind of thing. So yeah, it's been definitely interesting.
And somebody started a really grumbly motor in her background. Sorry.
Is that like an airplane going overhead?
No, it's a car that lives back
there. Is a car that lives back there? All right. Oh well. Hopefully no one can hear that.
They'll eventually leave after 15 or 20 minutes.
Yeah, there's that guy with the VW. Julia says, oh man, that was timed just right. I did that one. Aethus Seeker says, hello from LA. Hi, Aethus. Welcome to our show. Bobby says, hello, everyone. Hi, Bobby. It's always good to have new people and regular people and everybody showing up. We're thinking of actually doing a live show on Saturday next week before we leave, since Sunday is the day we're leaving. So look for an announcement. That's our plan at the moment. Sundrop says, hi, Siofra and Ian and everyone. Hi, Sundrop. Bobby says, all sorts of people. Yes, that's what we like. Yep. All kinds of individuals and differences and things, and some similarities and all that jazz. So, Aaron says, I only hear the train going by outside. So you have your own noisemaker, huh? Because we don't have any trains here.
No, we do occasionally. You can hear
can you?
Back here, yeah.
Way away in the distance over there?
Far,
yeah. Well, anyway, we don't have a train right now.
I think that car actually left, so usually starts it and lets it run for 15 or 20 minutes. Usually happens while I'm trying to meditate.
I've been having fun looking at what's going on around our yard at night when I get up in the morning, looking at our cameras, and a raccoon family found a mother and 3 babies cavorting in our backyard, and then I'm assuming a male raccoon, because it was by itself looking for extra peanuts from the crows in the front yard, and a bunch of deer went by, and of course the neighborhood cats coming in and out, checking out our yard to see if there's anything good to hunt. Darling says hello. Hi, Darling.
Been a usual week with the rabbit terrorist and the cat.
Oh God, yes.
Rabbit still being a terrorist, the cat is still being a cat.
Apparently the rabbit has taken offense by the cat's tail. I was watching them on the couch the other day, and the cat's tail started to move, and the rabbit jumped up and glared at the tail. And whenever it moved, he glared at it some more. He was getting ready to jump on it. It was pretty hysterical. So yes, they're still chasing each other around from time to time, but Bugsy seems to have figured out that he needs to run and jump up high where the rabbit can't get him. So that's a good thing. Anyway, got a new moon coming up in a couple of days, and in the middle of a Perseids meteor shower, I think it's what it's called. So it's a good time of month, actually, in the lunar cycle to see meteors falling out of the sky, becoming meteorites. So that's pretty awesome. Aethys says, fierce bunny. Yes, he is a pretty fierce bunny. So yeah. Bobby says, been ages since I didn't see the night sky. Well, I'm glad you can. Can you see the night sky? Is that what that means?
Yeah.
Well, good. Watch the night sky and see those meteors. We're not going to be able to see them here at too much light. And then the fog rolls in.
We always get overhead fog at night, so
Yep.
we barely.
It was really foggy this morning when we got up.
Yeah.
And I looked outside and I'm like, wow, there's like the whole place is covered in mist.
Yeah, we seldom have clear sky at night, especially when it's hot inland.
And we're starting a heat wave. It was supposed to be hotter today, but it's pushed until tomorrow, so that's good. Otherwise, our room in here would be all heated up. Atha says, are you and Ian going to do anything special for the new moon? No, we're continuing to get ready for the trip. So probably not at this month. We're going to be getting, when we leave the power spot, the full moon, the second full moon will just be coming up because we're leaving on the 30th to come back. So that'll be kind of interesting. So we'll be there, we leave on Sunday, so we'll see most of the cycle after the new moon since that's happening in a few days. So 4 days before we leave is when the new moon is. So we'll start to see the crescent and get able to watch that whole cycle. So we might see some meteors, so that would be fun in the first week or the first couple of days of being there. But yeah, there's so much stuff to get ready for. It's amazing how much stuff we have to remember.
Well, that's because she's being very efficient and organized about it, which is
Awesome.
a good thing. Yes.
Yes, I have boxes. I'm making lists of everything in each box, and then I'm looking at the list to decide what I'm missing, so we know what's in the box. And because there's no power, we'll have just our propane stove, and we had to get our lights and things like that because there's nothing there as far as that goes, which is going to be wonderful. I like it. It'll be interesting. It's been a few years since we were able to go there before the pandemic, so this will be our first real trip to kind of recharge. So we're looking forward to just sitting and looking at the sky and thinking, and this is where I really tuned into a lot of the Fae places. I mean, it really opened up my ability to see them the last time we were there, and it was amazing, actually. I saw the most beautiful female figure I've ever seen in my life, and it was one of the Fae that was there. She seemed to be like the queen of the area, I guess. I don't know if those are the right terms for them or not, but she was pretty spectacular, and I saw her a number of times, and she kept coming into view. And so that was great. And it's there that I got the yew wood for my fairy wand, and I'm going to be bringing the wand back with me to show them what I've done with the piece of wood that they gave me from the yew tree, which I like to do when I can. I can't always do that, but it's just kind of special to be able to bring a magical object that the tree has gifted me some wood to give to others as well as myself, and to be able to show it what I've done, and then show the Fae that are there that inspired me to take it. We just happened to have a tree book with us, and I happened to notice this odd tree that we'd never noticed before that was an evergreen that had berries on it, which seemed weird. And I found it in the book and started reading about its history and so forth, and I was like, wow. So it was a few years after we discovered what kind of a tree it was before we harvested any wood. Yeah, with my solar wand, I did that too. I was able to bring the wand back to the tree that I harvested from because I knew exactly where it was, so that was kind of cool. So Athos says, "Yay, I just came back from Oregon. Sounds like a powerful time for you two. I'm excited for you both. Yeah, it's a power spot. And I don't know how I stumbled upon it, but you can rent a cabin on the power spot, so it's pretty awesome." Athos says, "I love working with the Fae." Me too. Bobby says, "Are some Faes dark in appearance?" Well, there's a lot of different appearances. I mean, I saw what would be described as trolls and and other looking, creatures. I mean, their shapes and so forth are often very dependent upon what their job is, what they do, where they are. I've seen huge ones, like the trolls are really big, and then little ones that are about the size of a dragonfly, and everything in between. So this place has got a lot. It seemed to have a colony of all of them living in that area. So I was pretty excited. It's like lots of stuff to learn. And it helped me to learn how to see them in other locations. So, yeah, it really increased my clairvoyant ability by a significant amount. Atheist says, "I've seen one with dark, wrinkly skin." Yes, lots of different types. Well, yeah, and when the gnomes come to visit me, their faces are very interesting. They've got like wrinkles and hair in different places, and there's very a lot of character and detail when I see them. And the one night a bunch of them came, like one after another. They wanted to see if I could tell that they were different, if I could see that they were different. And it's like, yes, you have the most interesting faces. I wish I was an artist that could just draw things. I could draw what I was seeing. That would be so awesome. But that's not my particular gift. So, oh well. But yeah, it is pretty interesting. And the other thing is, too, is like a lot of them have come to me they were curious as to whether I would be afraid of how they looked, because some of their appearance is considered kind of, I guess, extreme by people. And one of them that did that had a pretty startling kind of aspect to it. And my response was, "Are you planning on doing me any harm?" And the answer was no. I said, "Well, then there's no reason for me to be afraid of you just because of how you look." So trying to keep that in mind when I'm interacting with different spirits and stuff. So, Athos says, like Brian Froud. I'm not familiar with him. Jacqueline says, "Will you bring back more you would?" Oh, interesting thought. Maybe. Maybe I should ask. I was thinking that there might be some wood there for me to bring back for purposes. I'm thinking you would like to have a piece of it. Is that what I'm hearing here? Sumdrop says, "Why do they have extreme features?" Because they don't have bodies. And so they're not bound to the confines and conformity of physical reality. So they can appear any way that suits them.
Including things that you never even thought of.
Right. And Jacqueline says, "Yes, that's what I was getting." Yes, absolutely. I will do that.
Assuming the tree is still intact and everything. They've redone the place since we've been there and we haven't seen it, so
yeah.
I don't know yet.
If the tree is still there, and I certainly hope it is, and it's okay with the idea, and we'll be pretty close to the new moon, so it would work out quite well. And yes, you have to be careful with yew wood. You're not supposed to handle it with bare hands. The bark is toxic.
Yeah.
The whole thing is poisonous, but
I never had any problem.
yeah, well, I just used my gardening gloves, and you just don't want to overdo
I
it.
sure have no problem using my wand.
Well, I have mine covered with some leather for the handle for when I'm using it.
Yeah, it's easy enough to.
Yeah. It's not like it's going to kill you right out of the gate, although the seeds will. I think it's only 3 seeds is enough to kill a person. So you definitely don't want to be eating the seeds. Although they do make a jam from the actual berry, just not the seed. It's the only part of it that's edible for people, is the berry. And ancient days, they used to use the seed for, I guess, self-abortion kind of thing in order to stop a pregnancy. And I guess sometimes it worked and sometimes it worked too well and it killed the mother too, so they had to be careful. Atha says, have you ever seen Fae in urban settings? Oh yeah. Yeah, one of my encounters that I had was a Fae that came on a Dieffenbachia plant that my partner at the time bought me for my birthday from a flower shop. Apparently they had them in their flower shop, and it happened to be on the plant when the plant was delivered, so it was in my house for a while. And it was pretty cute. I kept hearing this giggling, and I saw this short individual dressed in a suit with buckles on his shoes and hiding his face because I was having a birthday celebration with my partner at the time, and apparently people doing things of an intimate nature are hysterically funny and embarrassing to some of the Fae. So, yes. And anytime you have a yard or plants or stuff like that, you know, you can certainly attract them, and in parks and things like that, you can have tree spirits and whatnot. So there's things. They exist everywhere where there's life. It's just usually people don't tune into them so much because they're so busy doing everything else. Jacqueline says, yeah, I would wrap the handle. You could show it my fairy bell and let it know it's for those fairies. Oh yeah, I'm going to be bringing the fairy bell you gave me to the cabin. And the other thing, interestingly enough, one of my, I don't know if call him a spirit guide or whatever, Black Eagle, he came to me when I was at a power spot up in Saskatchewan at a medicine wheel, and he sometimes shows up. Recently he started showing up again. And one of the things that happened when we were at the cabin the last time we were there was I was gifted a feather in a rather surprising way. And I've been told I need to bring the feather back, not to leave it there, but to take it back there and to wear it. So that'll be interesting. It was happening, they put the idea in my head while I was driving, so I was really glad that it wasn't too distracting, because it could have been. That's not a good place to have visions, is when you're driving. That's kind of considered bad.
Yes, though I do know somebody who used to, believe it or not, try astral traveling to do a ritual while he was driving to work. He's doing the pentagram banishing ritual while he was driving to work, and I don't know how he managed to do that without
Crashing,
getting killed or something, but yes, apparently he did.
Yeah. Jacqueline says, yes, showing the feather will identify you. Yeah, that was such a magical thing when I got that feather, because, you know, when it fell out of the sky, it was pure white, and when it landed, it was pure black. So it was definitely unique, a power object. So I was like, yeah, okay, I can do that. So we should have some cool stories when we get back, if we can remember how to share them. It depends on how far out we go. Been having interesting dreams leading up to this trip, so we'll see what happens. But I'm definitely looking forward to it. Atha says, have either of you ever astral traveled? Oh yeah. I used to do it a lot when I was younger, just sort of randomly, and accidentally discovered things I wasn't supposed to know about, and almost got in trouble on more than one occasion, but, you know. And I liked flying on comets through the solar system. When I was younger, I'd be out like zipping around the planets and find a comet and sit on it and fly towards the sun. I just thought that was great fun. I thoroughly enjoyed myself. And I found out something interesting the other day. The total solar eclipse is happening next April. There is going to be a comet at the same time that could potentially be visible during the eclipse. So that should be interesting. we get 2 for 1. I'm just like, a double event. So it should be pretty spectacular. I'm looking forward to that. Kara says, hello, just woke up from a nap. Glad I didn't miss this. Well, hi, Kara. Nice of you to join us. We always appreciate having everybody here. So, yeah. It's been an interesting preparation. It's like there's so many things to think about. Had to get Ian his new license and get the real ID. And everybody made such a big deal about it. We were worried we weren't going to be able to do it.
And it turned out to be not too bad, actually.
Yeah, it was fairly simple and straightforward. So, we got it done. So he will have a real ID so he can fly anywhere in the country. It's like a strange thing. They keep changing all the rules and stuff, and you have to remember what's going on. But hey. So, anybody got other questions that they want to ask?
We're ready.
We are ready. Rock and roll and ready. Atheist says, is this cabin on Airbnb? No. It is a Forest Service cabin. It's a historical site. It's only like $35 a night. It's halfway between Klamath Falls and Medford, Oregon. It's a horse campground, and you don't have to have a horse to stay at the cabin.
Yeah, it's very, very crude as far as, just like it would have been many years back, so you got no running water or anything. There's a hand pump over across the horse part.
Yeah, so there's a well. Hopefully they've done something about that hand pump, because that is like insane amount of work to get water out of that thing the last time we were there.
But they may have.
Yeah, but you get it through the forestry system and stuff like that. And I think it's called Willow Prairie. It's only $35 a night. It used to be $15. Then they decided that people liked it a lot and they wanted to do some upgrades, so they were going to raise the price. So we're like, okay, it's still pretty inexpensive though, and there's just a lot of quiet, silence, nature, hawks, ravens, owls, cows. Yes, there are some cows, and then the people who are camping with horses going by the cabin to go on their trails and stuff like that. So you have to watch out for road apples.
It's really nicely primitive, though.
Yeah. And then you have a roof over your head, and so, wild animals aren't going to get in your tent. So that's a good thing, just in case. So Sheila says, hi from Sheila in West Virginia. Love you all. Hi, Sheila. Jacqueline says, it's only difficult to get real ID for women who have been married a few times. Yeah. And then I have a legal change of name, so that adds another layer to I have to do that near my birthday in January. So, because mine's coming up too. Sundrop says, does it really matter if you light a candle with a lighter or matches for workings? I don't think so. It depends on how your brain works. I mean, if in your brain it matters, then it matters.
Yeah. So I'd say generally no.
I use a lighter to light my candles all the time. It's a source of fire. Yeah. It has a flint in it. It has fuel, and a match has got fuel, and the friction you use is the flint action kind of thing in order to make it happen, to combust it. So I really, from a magical perspective, don't see the difference.
It's fine.
Jono says, hi guys, I just tuned in, read a comment about astral travel, and you were talking about ID required to travel. That's true. I hope your holiday is great. Yes, so am I. Sajamoon says, hi Siofra, nice to see you and glad I caught you live again. Been a while, but I catch up when I can. Will you be making moon water on the super blue moon? Probably not, because we will be traveling back home on the 30th, and I think the 31st is the actual full moon. And I tend not to make moon water, because then I have to figure out what to do with it and where to keep it, and It's like, I've not historically been a person who's been into moon water. That kind of was a recent development in the witch community as far as my, I don't know, what I have been taught and what I've done and what I've learned and so forth. I'm pretty well established in my own habits, and so moon water is a new thing to me. I certainly have used rainwater and, different forms of water for different ritual purposes and so forth, but probably not going to be making super blue moon water. But hey, thank you for asking. Sheila says, hope you have a wonderful time. We will miss you. Well, if we do our live show on Saturday before we leave, we'll only miss one live show. So that's what we're thinking. We're thinking of doing it next Saturday afternoon instead of Sunday. Since we can't quote unquote check in until 2 o'clock on Sunday, so there's no reason for us to leave early as far as the travel there, because it's like 4 to 5 hours to get there. Then we could potentially just check in with everybody before we go. So I will make sure we announce that. I think it should work, though. I don't see any reason why not. Sundrop says, another witch said not to use lighters, use matches. Okay, thank you. Every person's going to have their own view on what to do. And the thing is like, you have to decide for yourself what your magic is and what matters to you. Taking someone else's opinion about it isn't necessarily a good idea.
And you have to determine how far you want to go with that, because like the old grimoires, the old magicians and things would go to the most absurd lengths. They would make their tools themselves, pour the metal, cast it, engrave it, do everything themselves to make something, which of course is great for imbuing something with a lot of energy, but you kind of have to decide if your goal is to complete the ritual, how much energy you're willing to put into it, and that's...
Well, I mean, if you really wanted to go old school, you should have a flint and you should have some shavings, or you should use a stick, and you could do this to make your own fire.
Ideally, those things would be better overall as building up more energy into the whole project, but are they necessary? I certainly don't want to go that far in most stuff.
Well, yeah. And, life has changed, and technology is here, so there's no reason not to incorporate it into our magic, I don't think. Sajamoon says, I like to spray mist inside the house. Cool. Carolee says, does candle magic have to burn an hour or all the way down? It depends on what kind of a candle magic it is. Most cases, if you're doing a specific spell candle, you want it to burn all the way down. But you can do it in sections if you want to. Like if it's a healing candle, you can burn it for a period of time while you're focusing on sending healing energy to the person, and then snuff it out or blow it out, and then relight it when you're focusing, if that's the purpose for it. But with some other candle magic, if you really need to have it burn all the way down, the shorter the candle, the faster it burns. So, and you can put your candle in a container filled with sand or with water and sand, so that you don't have to worry about burning your house down, because safety first. When you're dealing with fire likes to get out of control. It's kind of its thing. It wants to spread and go everywhere.
Too rambunctious.
It's very rambunctious. Julia says, oh, good reminder there, Sajamoon. I will do my best to manage that. Not a huge amount, but I do have a few uses for it in mind. Sundrop says, I spray Florida water. It smells so good. Yes. Carolee says, true, yes, thank you. You're welcome. But yes, always safety first. You always have to think about how it's going to impact it, because you don't want to accidentally burn down your temple or your altar or your house or drown it or whatever when you're working with elements. Sheila says, is using birthday candles cheating?
Of course not.
I don't think so. You can't write on them. I mean, if you're using a birthday candle, there's certain parts of most candle spells you can't do, like write the name of the person it's for or the reason you're doing it on. because there's no room for that. But you can, hold it in your hand and you can tell it what it is, just like you would do with a crystal or any other object. It's like you're programming it. You're telling it what its purpose is and how you want it to function and how it's going to do it so that it knows what's up. So that would be the only caveat, but a lot of people actually use birthday candles. They also have spell candles, they call them, which are shorter. They're not quite birthday candle size. They're like about twice as tall, and they're a little bit bigger around, so they're not quite so thin. But they don't take very long to burn down, and there's enough of a surface on them that you could actually write something on them too. And they have all kinds of different colors, so you can get one that's color specific that suits your purposes and so forth. Aethys says the meteor shower is supposedly going to be its strongest tonight. Do you two have a good view? I saw them last night in the desert. No, we're on the coast. We don't have a good view. But hey, I have seen them in the past, and I managed to see them when I lived up in the Kispiox Valley, and it was, we were working in this friend's hay field, and we he collected all of his hay and stuff, and then we threw blankets down on the field and laid down and watched the meteor shower, and it was pretty spectacular to watch that way. So it's not like I haven't seen them in the past, but yeah, probably not going to see them here. Sundrop says birthday candles are used for mini altars. Very neat. Yes, and yeah, whatever works for you. That's the thing. It's like, there are certain paths that if you choose to follow them, they're strict about what you can and cannot do. If you're eclectic like me, I make do with whatever happens to be around. And I am sort of a kitchen witch in the sense that I don't have to have an object that's just dedicated to magic in order to make it work if it's an emergency. I have used like a butter knife in an emergency because I needed to have a knife, and that was the only one I had available. But it's like, because it's your imagination is the most important component of any magic that you're doing. So if your own subconscious is trying to short circuit what you're doing because it has a list of things that aren't okay, then that kind of magic's not going to work for you, because you're going to be short circuiting it yourself as you do it. We're going like, oh, I don't know if this is the right way, or if this is allowed, or if I can do this thing. And you get those doubts in there, the whole thing starts to fall apart. Confidence is very important. Aethys says, you've ridden on a comet, so I think you are good to go for experiences with celestial things. Well, yeah, and visited spirits from other planets and in our solar system, mind you, not other solar systems. But yes. Jono says, if I need to burn a candle all the way, I use tea light candles. I don't want to leave a candle unattended, but I'm not going to sit there for 10 hours. Nope. Don't think I can do that. Yep. So you know yourself, and that's a good thing.
Though I would point out that the 7-day candles we can get here locally, the Saints candles, they're in a big glass container, and you let them just light it and let it burn for 7 days, and as long as it's in an area where nothing's going to tip it over,
yeah,
just leave it go.
You can.
Yeah.
Sundrop says, I believe you can snuff the candle out and relight it again later. Yes, I think you can. But again, that's going to depend on your thinking and what you're doing. Like, that's why I use the healing candle as an example of one that you would probably relight depending on the situation. I've had some that I've lit and burned all the way down because I felt it was necessary. Yeah, I figured you meant relight. Aethys says, yeah, that's what I do because my ma won't let me keep them on. Yeah. And probably a good thing. That's why I recommend the cauldron with the sand and the water in it or what have you. So there's nowhere for it to go but out when it hits the right level and kind of thing. I thought that sounded like a great idea. I don't know that I've actually done it that way because most of the time I'm there with my candle. And like the candles that I use when I'm taking a bath, they're only lit while I'm taking my bath, and then I blow them out so I can use them again later for taking another bath. I like bathing by candlelight. It's just soft and relaxing and helps me see my aura better. And I was playing with my aura the other day again, and I know I've talked about when I'm doing the sky gazing, seeing what I call the gray popcorn, which is the first step to me starting to see things in the sky. And when I'm looking at my hands, the first thing I now see is kind of like a red, purplish kind of lines with dark energy, not dark energy, but it is a different kind of background than the popcorn, but it seems to be there. It's kind of like the base or the matrix that other stuff comes on. Then after I get that and I can see that, then I can start seeing the colors. So I'm still working on that, and the green color is still my dominant color. I haven't really seen much of anything else yet, but it's pretty interesting. Sundrop says, I still can't burn real candles. She's scared a fire will start, so I do what I can. Yeah. And, there's other ways of doing things. You can do it in your mind's eye. You can call the fire spirits to try and help you with it, if fire is what you actually need, or, do a different kind of spell work. Jono says, Sundrop, I've got 2 big candles I use that way. I light my banishing candle during a banishing ritual, or when I'm concentrating on it, and then I snuff it out. Or snuff it. Aethys says, I was taught to keep it in a hearth for safety, to let it burn if you have to leave it unattended. Well, a hearth would be a good place if you have one. Not everyone has a hearth anymore. Sundrop says, I light electronic candles, but it's just not the same. I'm waiting on the chance to burn real candles. Yeah. But it does get the spirit of the fire, but it doesn't consume. That's the thing. Fire consumes. That's part of its property. Transforms something into something else, where an electric light wouldn't do that. It's, I guess, in a way, consuming the battery power, but that's still not quite the same. Aethys says, wow, do you have a dominant colored aura, Siofra? Yeah, green. Very nice green. It's like it's a rich, bright green. I don't know exactly what color it is, but it's really pretty. And I really like it when I can see it.
Maybe it's Viridian.
I don't know, but it's wonderful. And that's probably because I'm a healer, because green seems to be one of the dominant colors for healers. Bobby says, I see, Siofra, you're wearing lots of gemstone bracelets. Can you say what they are? Okay, yes. So I just got this one here, and this is an green adventuring. See if I can get that up there. There we go. And then this one is Amazonite, and then this one is Labradorite, and this one is Chalcedony. And aventurine is supposed to be good for energy, metabolism, and that kind of thing. The Labradorite is good for reflecting negative energy away. But I can't remember what the other 2 are good for at the moment. I have them written down. This is black tourmaline, which is good for keeping negative beings away from you and negative energy. This is obsidian, which also helps to ground out negative energy if it's coming at you. And this is tiger eye, which is good for reflecting attention away from you and back to the person who's unwanted attention or something like that. And then this is another piece of tiger eye that I wear a lot, which does that. It sort of helps it sort of imbues my aura with that kind of thought process, so that I'm me and I'm not being inundated by lots of other people's thoughts and energy and feelings and so forth. And then I have my pentagrams. I just got all polished up. And then this is ruby and emerald. So it's sort of Mars and Venus energy together, sort of balanced kind of energy. So yeah, so that's where I'm at with that. So Aethys says, what's Ian dominant aura color?
I'll leave that to you.
I don't know. I haven't looked lately. I think it's sort of a golden color, is what the impression I have. But I haven't tried practicing seeing his aura like I'm seeing mine. So that's something we should do.
Color to me.
Yeah, we should try that when we're gone. I'll try looking at your hands and see what I get.
Okay.
So that'll be a fun experiment, because I've been practicing on myself before going to bed. So Beth says, hello everyone. Hi Beth. Jono says, hi Beth. Desidratum says, hey y'all. Are there any crystals and or sigils that attract kind fae? How would someone respectfully say goodbye to them after a friendly chat? They have their own stuff to do. I think just being polite is good enough. I've never had a problem. I mean, we interact with each other and then they're off to do their own thing and I'm off to do my own thing. So I don't have a formal method that I use with them. It's just like, if I need assistance, I ask to see if they're willing, if they're able. If they need assistance, they ask, and I let them know if I'm willing and able. We have sort of a mutual friendship, I guess. There's no strings attached. So, yeah, I'm not sure exactly what to say with that. Beth says, hi, Jono. Sundrop says, can you have several altars in one room for different workings, or should altars be in their separate space? Oh, yeah, I have lots of altars. I have altars. In this room, we have the 4 elemental altars in the 4 directions. We have a lunar altar. Ian has a separate altar for different kinds of workings. So that means we've got 6 altars in this room.
Sounds right. Yeah.
In my bedroom, I have my main east altar that's got all my god and goddess statues on it, and some of my my offering plate and other things, and my amethyst that I do with the full moon, amethyst crystal web project, and so forth. And some of my wands live there from time to time. Then I have a corner altar that's got statues on it that don't fit on the other altar. And then I have a small, corner bookcase kind of thing in the other corner that's got all my water stuff on it for working with just specifically with the water element. And then on the dresser across from me, I have an earth altar. So I have my cauldron and some other stones there, and Anubis and so forth live there. Different deities for different directions. So yeah, I don't have a problem with having multiple altars. Some people find it confusing or want to just focus on one thing, so it's going to depend on you. But I figure you got something special you want to do, have an altar just for that special thing and let it do its thing and just check in with it every so often. So you can have an altar for a project, a spell working, a deity, a time of year, a celebration, a cycle of the moon, whatever it is, to help tune you into the streams of energy and so forth that are around your space, and acknowledge them. So that's me. Everyone's going to be different. Bobby says, Siofra, what are the differences between silver and gold for their properties? And hi, Shay.
Hi, Shay.
Well,
lunar and electrical to start off with. They're lunar
right.
and solar.
Yeah, basically lunar and solar, because gold is associated with the sun because of the color.
Elementally, that's water and fire.
Yeah, because the lunar is the water and the solar is the fire, and we often associate that with female for water and male for fire, but that's not always the case in different cultures. Like in Japan, there's a goddess of the sun and a god of the moon. So it's not like a hard rule kind of thing. Yeah. So that would be the basic properties, and like you said, electrical and magnetic.
From the water, yeah.
Yeah. And the fact that, the sun puts out its own heat, its own color. And the moon reflects the light from the sun, but it changes its color. Because it reflects it as a silver light because it has no fire of its own. And so there's that too, because silver is a softer, not as bright in that sense.
Yeah, and since also magnetic lunar water is good for attracting things, and the solar is an outgoing energy. So you've got an inward pull like a magnet, and you've got an outward push for the two also.
Okay. Beth says mine are all over the place. Ruth says, hi all. Hi, Ruth. Athea says, I only have my one Fey altar. You two are definitely inspiring me for future workings. Jono says, hi, Dizzy. They probably like that Celtic labyrinth maze symbol, and I can't remember its name. If you don't mind me asking, what do you mean by kind Fey? Which is a good question. Sundrop says, okay, I don't have room for a permanent altar. I'm trying to work something out. I don't want to put up and take the altar down. What are your thoughts on seasonal altars? Well, I think they're great because it sort of invites the energy, the changing seasons into your space, and you're acknowledging the fact that the earth is changing around you. In acupuncture, for example, they recommend that you get a tuning treatment after every change of the season because it helps your body to adapt to the changing energies of the season. So I think that putting an altar for the season actually does a similar kind of thing for your body, your energy body, and it helps you to adapt and tune into the differences in how the energy flows and what's going on in the larger magical world around you. Julia says Norse and Celtic pantheons also hold with a sun goddess and a moon god along with Japan. Cool. Bobby says gold purifies and the moon also. Yeah, different ways. Athos says, I don't have a lot of room either, Sundrop. My boyfriend has made altars on the floor because of lack of space. You also can have like a movable or kind of altar. One idea when people live with people that aren't magically inclined and they don't want to have their altars just sticking out all the time is getting something like a wardrobe, a cupboard that closes, that you can put your altar stuff inside of the cupboard and then open up the doors to when you want to work with it.
Yeah, I used to have one for a small environment that I was in. You keep everything. It was a little trunk, like a steamer trunk, one of the metal ones. So I could open it up, and then the top of it became the altar. I just had a cloth inside there, so I'd open it up and put the cloth on top, and it was an altar. Of course, I had to remember to get all my tools out first, otherwise I had to risk tipping over the altar trying to open it to get more stuff out, but it actually served pretty well.
Yeah, so there's options, ways that you can just take them, build them, and then take them down or hide them from prying eyes.
And that was that. This was a steamer trunk, so anybody came in, it was locked and closed as a steamer trunk, and nobody ever noticed it.
Yeah, and in traditional Wicca, a lot of times they have an altar in the center. They don't do like altars around the outside like we do. I find that difficult when I'm doing a ritual because I'm always running into the altar, and especially if it's on the floor and there's a candle burning. We had one of our members did a ritual like that in her space, and I was constantly worried that I was going to like catch my skirt on fire or knock over something or what have you. So, it really depends upon what works for you. Yeah, it's sort of interesting notions. But whatever works is the main thing. And Bobby says, Siofra, your opinion on pink gemstones such as rhodochrosite, rhodonite, pink opal, or rose quartz? I love them all. Rhodonite is interesting because the pink and black. And there are specific energetic properties that it has that Ian has used for certain workings. I can't remember exactly what they are, but we've bought some for you. The pink and black stone.
Right. Well, that's because the color match had to do with one of Barton's formulas, where one letter was pink and the other wasn't black, but it was acacia, which black is a good substitute color for the deep violet of the Akashic color.
And rose quartz, I think, is a lovely stone. I really enjoy it. I have a pink opal mounted on my staff, and so I obviously like those. I don't have a problem with pink. Pink is a perfectly fine color. I just don't wear a lot of pink. I mostly wear rose colors, but
interestingly enough, I have a pink shirt that nobody ever bothered about when I wore it. It's like, okay, pink. But I had still do have a purple shirt, but like, I've had people freak out about that. One person in particular, but
yeah, we're not sure exactly why. She commented on it. She says, "Whatever you do, don't wear that to an interview." We're like, "What?" And we did not know purple was a bad color, so we're not sure why. But anyway, Sundrop says, "I'm hoping my parents will move into senior housing so I can have the house to myself and work properly." Oh, well, I'm sorry if they're getting to the age where they need it, but that would be nice that you could have a space to yourself. Desiderata says, Seelie, Fae, or otherwise not unkind nature beings. Still not sure about crystals, but we'll look at the glyph mentioned. Thanks for the feedback, everybody. Okay. Aethys says, any tips for working in the Akasha for beginners? Meditation is your best bet for working in the Akasha, especially in the beginning. The idea of the Akasha is that all time and all space are connected. I did a video just talking about the Akasha, and so did Ian.
Whoever did that.
Yeah, and so did Ian. You did an Akasha video too. So you can watch those two videos to get some ideas of what we mean by that. Some people can work with the energy of the Akasha. It is officially like a fifth element in that sense, but it's generally very difficult for people to work with that, especially in the beginning. And so, tuning into that notion that your lifetimes are all connected, people are all connected, the universe is all connected.
Yeah, and the Akasha is one. I don't warn people about magical stuff all that often, but the Akasha is one of those things you have to be careful about, because when you're starting off, you really can't hurt yourself too much. You start getting into it, making a connection, and then if you're particularly close to the Akasha, your thoughts can start manifesting down immediately, including negative thoughts or things you don't even want to actually happen. That just some thought goes through your head and boom, it happens. And you really do have to watch out for that, because it's never something you want, like winning the lottery. It's always that
fear, anxiety thing that pops up. And so meditating and clearing yourself out and doing your shadow work.
If you really want to get into it, you need to curb those things in yourself and be able to control your mind and emotions enough so that you don't accidentally put a seed in the Akasha, because the Akasha is a place where everything manifests down, and if you put a thought form in there, it's like a seed. It'll have a tendency to grow over time and become manifest if you're not careful. So.
And if it's the wrong seed for the wrong kind of plant,
yes, or for the wrong purpose. Even if what you have to worry about is, even if the seed is for a good purpose, say, you think, you believe, if it's going to cause disharmony, that can cause you trouble. So, it takes if you start actually getting to where you can use it and work with it, it takes a lot of clarity and caution to not shoot yourself in the foot. That's how I put it. Otherwise, it can be the most powerful thing you can do.
Sundrop says, Dizzledrop says, thank you at Jono, just found your response. Sundrop says, I love to decorate, I have so many plans. Bobby says, manifest, if I win the lottery based on knowledge acquired here in this chat room, I'll send you a check.
Awesome.
Well, hey, we will accept that, if that's the case. Sundrop says, I did make an herb and spice rack in my bedroom for easy access. Cool. Bobby says, I believe proper decoration is vital to create a good vibe in the home, even the clothes we wear. Yeah, I mean, how things make you feel is going to affect how other people feel about you. Because, your energy, what you put out and so forth, some people are going to like it, some people aren't, no matter what. But if you like it, that's a good start, because if you feel powerful or in control or creative or centered and grounded in yourself and happy, then you're going to, just by default, attract better things, and maybe notice the negative things soon enough to avoid them.
Yeah.
So you're not like, walking into a virtual trap. It's sort of been interesting with the death that happened, and the various reactions that people have had around it. Unfortunately, his mother is the one who found the body, and he was in a very bad state. He had been dead for quite some time, and so, the mother is feeling guilty that she didn't get him to the hospital the day before, and all this other stuff, and just psychologically and emotionally a wreck. Apparently, his father didn't understand why anyone would tell me that this happened because I don't like him. And I'm like, what? Just because he's not my favorite person and he abused my daughter and my grandkids, in my opinion, doesn't mean I don't care about how people feel about what happened and so forth. And I was very proud of my granddaughter because she immediately said that.
Yeah, and that doesn't immediately mean just because you don't like something, it doesn't mean you wish them to die or something.
Exactly.
You just don't like the behavior, and in his case, he didn't like the behavior, and we couldn't deal with it. Personally, we weren't willing to put up with it, but it didn't mean we wanted him to die, for Pete's sake.
Yeah. And we certainly didn't wish it for his kids, for my grandkids, because then now their opportunity to process with him, except through magical means, is eliminated, and his potential for change is gone.
Right. Eliminated his potential.
Eliminated his potential. And so it's been interesting to be on the outside of it, and supportive of my grandkids and what they're going through and so forth, and what they're dealing with.
And it becomes difficult too, because once you start you get advanced far enough on the pathway of magic and stuff, and what you say starts making less and less sense to people who aren't on that pathway. I mean, as your understanding grows, you know what I'm saying with reference to this type of thing, it gets harder and harder to communicate these things, like the projection that we must have wanted him to die because we didn't like him, or that kind of thing.
Or we didn't care.
Yeah, and that's not it. It's just you couldn't live with the behavior, and it, you get to a point where you change from the normal stuff, and you don't get angry about a lot of these things, and you don't get hurt the same way. You get hurt differently, and it's not as bad, and people don't understand your reactions. At the same time, you can become kinder and more generous, and also seem less upset by the hard things.
Right. You're a little bit more centered.
Yeah,
around what's going on.
Being less upset.
It's harder to get
harshness.
Right. Your equilibrium is stable.
Yes.
And not having the extreme reactions that some people might expect. But my granddaughter was great when her grandfather said that about me. She just immediately said, well, she cares about how I feel about this, and she cares about how you are feeling about this, and how my other grandmother feels about this, because she's a human being and she has empathy. And I was like, thank you. I was very appreciative of her saying that directly to him and so quickly. So it's an interesting thing. But where people are coming from, especially in the middle of grief, it's like I certainly don't hold that. I don't hold anyone responsible for having a bad reaction when they're in the midst of grief, because lashing out in anger is a pretty common reaction too. And people have whatever they have. That's the way it works. So anyway, interesting. So, Sundrop says, I love autumn and wintertime, especially Christmas. Those are pretty. Do you celebrate Christmas? No, I celebrate the winter solstice, however. So
we used to celebrate Christmas in general, just to kind of be in the spirit of things, but it gradually fell off because so much work to get a tree, and if you get a live tree, then you got to deal with that, and if you got a fake one, which you put up, you still have to worry about your cat climbing up in it, knocking it over,
Well, that's
things
true.
Like that.
But I like to hang things on my door, and when my kids were young, we celebrated the solstice. We didn't celebrate Christmas, but
So we don't if we celebrate, it's not because it's Christmas so much, it's just a holiday that we decide to celebrate when we do. Last few we haven't done much because...
well, I have a lot of triggers around Christmas as a holiday because of the abuse I suffered as a kid. And Christmas was one of those weird days when nobody did anything evil. And everyone pretended that everything was not evil, even though for the other 364 days of the year, things were evil.
Yes.
So the conflict, that dichotomy between those two things, the differences between the states of beings was very triggering for me.
I think that's absolutely valid.
Yeah. And so when I dove more and more into paganism and started celebrating the winter solstice, the first year that I celebrated the winter solstice and did not notice when Christmas happened, I felt very healed. That I had helped to heal a lot of that trauma from my childhood and a lot of that trigger. So it's going to depend upon the individual. There's a lot of pagan symbolism in Christmas anyway, so what the heck.
Hey, if you want to celebrate it, celebrate it. You don't have to be celebrating the Christian deity in particular if you want to like Christmas,
Yeah, for the gifts and the decorations. So Bobby says lots of different meaning for the skull. So a skull, what does it mean usually in magic? Well, depending on the culture.
Yeah, it's like the Masonic skull. You'll notice the Freemasons, this is not a different culture, but the Freemasons use the skull and crossbones a lot. And so that symbolizes the death aspect and transformation in that sense, because the death aspect of the skull. I know the Tibetans make skull cups
Right.
out of tops of skulls and things, and that's to
Honor the
dead.
the wisdom and the specialness of the person. Usually they make skull cups out of like a swami guru, a teacher of some kind, and they are trying to preserve their wisdom. I would assume that would be part of that thinking, was that the skull itself is the house of the brain and the spirit and so forth, and so it could represent that.
Kali has her necklace of skulls, which has a little bit different interpretation, but
Right.
each one is a thing that you want to cut off. Each one is one of your enemies, so to speak, in that case that you're solving as far as...
Yeah, so there's...
I don't mean physical enemies, but...
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Emotional thought forms, processes, things that are keeping you down. So that's kind of some of it. And they're fun for decorations for Samhain. Atha says, is that a peacock in the background? Yes, it is. For me, my astral temple, the peacock is the bird for water. And I did not know why that happened, but when I did my astral temple, that's what I saw, was a peacock in the water element. And then later doing some research, I found out it's probably the Indian associations of the peacock that made it a water bird for me, as well as the colors.
Well, yeah, generally the coloration and like shifting colors and that type of thing are also generally kind of associated with water, like shifting, changing colors.
And the greens and the vivid greens and blues and so forth and so forth. But the peacock has a unique ability to consume poisonous substances without harm, which is just sort of interesting. And the peacock shows up in the background of a lot of gods and goddesses in Hindu religion.
And they actually use it magically for that purpose too, for purposes of, there's I believe, I'm pretty certain there's a Hindu prayer to the peacock in order to help solve poison, get rid of poisonous and things like that.
And then in the Greek mythology, the eyes of the peacock are from Argus, who was one of Hera's monster children, they called them. And I met Argus. And peacocks always had some kind of a special meaning for me ever since I can remember. So yeah, I do have a peacock. And it is in the west and representing the water for me. Kara says, a cat in the tree is traditional. Yeah, it is. Cats don't care. Yep. Shay says, wow, thanks for the warning about working with the Akasha. You're welcome. Carolee says, my cat loved the tree we hung, safe decorations and no tinsel. Good. Sundrop says, I like the Christmas decorations and cooking and songs. I've seen Christmas altars. Cool. Bobby says, skulls means possibly also transmutation. Yep, that would be one definition.
Yeah.
Death is certainly transmuting.
Yeah, and that's the death card of the tarot, where you've got a reaper reaping human heads and things, and the reaper has a scythe and is usually portrayed as a skeleton, and that's the basic symbolism of that card. It has the Hebrew letter Nun associated with it, and the basic symbolism is transformation and change.
Death brings about the room for change.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like the death of something,
Well,
death
and
of
it's
the
like,
ego,
it could be the
death
death
of
of you.
a
I mean,
person.
You die and say you're going to be reincarnated, okay, but you're cut off from that past life, so all the things you did bad now are no longer with you. Mostly, the things you regrets and things like that are all gone, and you can start a new life and continue on from there without having all these regrets and things hanging on. And that's
So-
one reason you have problems with past life. Sorry, not meaning to deviate. I mean,
No, that's fine.
okay.
So Rita says, hi all, I'm taking a study break and wanted to catch a few minutes of the live. Instantly got caught up in the conversation and forgot to say hi. Well, welcome. Thank you for dropping in. We always love it. Aetha says, hi Rita. So yeah, one of the things I like is the kind of conversations we tend to have. The funniest thing though, of course, is when Ian and I have emptied a restaurant by having one of our conversations that we haven't noticed
I have a
is
tendency
bothering
to
people.
I get caught up in things and not notice that other people are listening and getting freaked out. That's happened before.
It's happened. There was something the other day, we were just talking about some random thing. It might have been the feathers thing that I got about bringing the raven feather back to the power spot or whatever. And we're just chatting back and forth about Black Eagle and what he said and what I saw. And Ian had his own encounters with the eagle medicine kind of stuff. And I just stopped. I said, you know what? People listening in on this conversation would probably think we were loony. But this is a normal conversation for us. So I'm so glad we can talk like that to one another and not have to worry about how it's perceived.
We're the same brand of strangeness or weirdness.
Yes.
Whatever. Yep.
Somehow we fit well together. So that's a good thing. But it's a special thing to be able to have just conversations with people where you don't have to monitor everything that you say because you're worried about how the other person is going to perceive what you're saying, when you can just say how you feel and not be misunderstood.
That's really a big relief,
It is.
Because you can't just talk about this stuff openly to a lot of people. If nothing else, a lot of people just want to understand what you're talking about, even if they aren't offended. It's like,
well, yeah, they get very confuddled, befuddled, confused.
That's a good word. I like that word.
Yeah, it's befuddled and confused together. I just made a new word. Feel free to use it.
I'm going to use it.
Confuddled.
Yeah.
And they get odd looks on their faces like, what is going on? I don't understand. But yes, so. And Rita says hi back and says, that's great. Julia says, I just know where my cats would be if I ever put up a Yule tree. My male cat hopped up his big old 12-pound self up onto my main altar to check out a small bunch of pine cones and needles I just put there. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, our kitty isn't that heavy, but he's long. He's a long cat.
Oh, and he snuck out of the house. It was very confusing for me because he's never been outside. We're taking care of him. We're fostering him, and he's always been an indoor cat. And one day, he came up to me in the evening, and his back was like wet. He was damp. All of his fur was damp, and I'm like, what? Is there some water in the sink? Like, what's going on here? And then the next day or the day after, I was coming back from running a bunch of errands, and here is Bugsy, and he's jumping the fence outside of the house, and I'm looking at this cat, and I'm thinking, you look a lot like this cat we're taking care of. what the heck are you doing? And he jumps up on the gate, and then he goes through the kitchen window, which I'd opened up, maybe that much, to get some airflow in our house. And I thought, oh, okay. So then I have to keep that window closed because we don't have a screen on that window. We got to get a new screen. But it was so funny because I was seeing him in a place he did not belong, and I was not sure if it was him or not until he got in the house. I was just like, what is going on? So that was hysterical. It's like, a lot of times, even if you know someone and you see them in a certain place all the time, you see them somewhere that you don't see them, it's like your brain just doesn't compute. Like, this person is not where they belong. They're supposed to be behind the counter at the bank. They're supposed to be, at the teller or at the grocery store checking me out or something. And it's like, it's funny the way the brain works like that.
My brain, I never recognize anybody out of place.
Yep.
Yeah.
Beth McCracken is cracking up. And Hottie says, hi everyone. Hi Hottie. Human Being says, how did you get into magic? I was born. That's kind of what happened. I was born weird and different, and it was the only thing that made sense. And when I discovered that other people were born weird and different or wanted to become weird and different like me, and I wasn't alone, it was very exciting. For a long time, I did not know anyone else was out there because I was born in 1950. So, it's like we didn't have this kind of super communication highway thing going on, so who knew? And there were very few books. And none of them were at my school library.
Yeah, well, that was when I was growing up. I found that they were being taken. Any books on interesting subjects were being taken out of the library by the Christians and just
same here,
lost.
Yeah.
They'd just been stolen basically from. So you couldn't even get anything out of the library. Sorry,
yeah.
One of my pet peeves.
Well, and when you did, your mother took them back.
Yeah, but that's a whole different problem.
Right. It's like, no, you're not allowed to do that. Julia grins to Beth. Atha says, how long was your foster outside? My cat has left for 2 nights and I was so scared. I think he wasn't outside for very long because, he ate all of his meals that day, but he hasn't gotten out since because I'm like, no, this is not okay. You are not an outdoor cat. So we're trying to keep him safe because we're not sure yet whether or not he's going to be ours. And, we're just going to be having this cat or if he's going back to his owner. And we have mixed feelings about it because he's been with us long enough now. We're getting kind of attached, but we're going to let him go if she can find a place where she's allowed to have a cat because he is her, I guess, emotional support animal. And, he's a sweet kitty. He's very sensitive. Got to watch out your tone of voice.
Too much.
Very sensitive. But anyway, okay, so Beth, Julia, yes, laughing.
Yep.
I love being different, magical, and open to so many possibilities. Good. And Bobby says, Beth, I'll bet. Bobby says, I'm allergic to cats, unfortunately, because I like them. Well, Ian is kind of allergic to cats, too.
I'm allergic to cats, too, but I've just
He lived with it.
I ignore it, yep. I like cats too much.
He has different kinds of antihistamines he takes to start with, so that helps. He's got, like, the pill, the regular one that you get from the standard, store shelf. He's got a super one that's for those kinds of allergies that doesn't work for, and he's got a spray that he's now able to use for the other ones. So he can now interact with the cat. But yes.
I can now interact with the environment.
Yes, he can now interact with the environment. Bobby says, spiders and dreams, what does it mean usually? Well, it depends on your relationship with spiders. I mean, historically speaking, spiders are weavers. That's the whole story about how spiders came to be in the first place, was the challenging of the goddess and trying to do weaving better than Athena. And that's how Ariadne ended up being turned into a spider, and that's why spiders are arachnids, because they're named after the god, the person. but I mean, if you think about their ability to weave, the strength of their thread, I mean, and their ability to know what's happening in their environment. I mean, a spider has got certain types of threads that are out there that if someone or something, in this case, like, a fly or something like that lands on it, the spider immediately knows what it is, where it is, and what it wants to do about it, whether it's friend or foe. So I would think that dreams about spiders could be talking about being aware of the things around your environment and being able to tell the differences and so forth, and being in control.
Being tuned in and have this stuff, being at the center of things.
Yeah.
Of thing, yeah.
And the fact that those threads are so strong, so the relationships that someone makes that's got spider as like a power animal or something like that could be pretty intense and long lasting, because that silk is the strongest fiber in the world. It's too bad it's just so small. They have figured out how to milk spiders and make spider silk and weave spider silk, and then they went and modified goats so they could get more spider silk, and they're trying to figure out how to do that. So the goats now make the milk.
Can we get one to make us speaker cones for us? I think they'd make spider silk would make great speaker cones.
Probably would be great.
Kevlar works really good, but
spider silk
really
is lighter and stronger. So
yes, that's exactly what you want for a speaker cone.
Yeah, so, and they fly. Spiders fly on their web, so they can like take their house with them and build it wherever they go. So they're very adaptive in that sense. They don't depend upon the environment. They are the environment. They create their housing. So those are just some spitballing ideas from the question, which I like questions like that, because then I'm like, I don't know, what do I think? I've never thought about that before. So there you go. That's my idea. So Bobby says, or Beth says, Bobby, hardest part for me is practicing with my clothes on. Ah. Sundrop says, I don't like that I have to hide being magical. Some don't approve. That's a shame for me to conform to others' liking. Well, sometimes you have to for your survival. I mean,
I agree with you on that, though.
It is a shame, but if you have to for your survival, don't feel bad about it. If I'm in danger, I can lie through my teeth without even a second thought. And generally speaking, I'm an incredibly truthful person. But if all of a sudden there's some weird situation going on and I can see where it's headed, if I say a certain thing, then I will lie. And it's like, and don't feel bad about it. It's like, you're not being ungenuine or inauthentic. You're being safe. And that's a good thing. Self-defense, whatever you have to do, is okay. That's my opinion.
And mine.
Bobby says, Hecate came in my dreams years ago. Tall figure, pale skin, 7 feet tall, long black hair. Cool.
7 feet long.
Yeah, 7 feet long and long black hair. Well, depends. Could have been a snake. I don't know. Athos says, have you two ever been mentors to magical students besides through YouTube? Well, we used to have groups and so forth, but it is difficult. It's a strange thing being an actual mentor, because usually people don't like you if you're actually doing your job correctly, because one of the things you should be doing is challenging the other person. And most people aren't committed enough to their own development to actually go through that process. And but yeah, so that's one of the reasons why we started the YouTube channel. I wanted to share some of our experiences and what I've learned and what Ian has learned, because we've had a long time of magical experiences and knowledge and so forth. He's like a walking encyclopedia for a bunch of different things, and I certainly have had any number of unusual things happen to me, to reach out and let people know that it's okay to be different, and that maybe you're not crazy, and maybe there's ways you can deal with it so that you can still survive in a life.
I early on, I tried dealing with a couple people and helping them out, but I made very much errors on the people I picked.
That's because we still have work to do on ourselves.
Well, yeah, and a lot of it was I was trying to help out people that didn't really want help. That was the thing.
Funny thing though, some guy contacted me from Texas, said he wanted to be an apprentice. He decided he was going to drive up here. I told him it was the wrong time of year for him to come because it was winter and the storms were about to come. He ignored everything I said and came anyway. And then I told him stuff and he didn't do a single thing I said, and then he left. And then like banned me on Facebook. So, it's like, it is all sorts of funny, really, when it comes down to
it's difficult because a lot of times people have their own preconceived notions, and then, of course, it's no way to learn anything. But if you don't meet the preconceived notions, it's like, well, I said on to
Oh yeah.
But if they want to learn anything, they have to. The whole point of it is dropping those notions and things to learn something new. It's like the old Japanese thing where the master, the disciple kept wanting more, and he wasn't following the instructions and things. So the idea of the old master pouring him tea till the cup is full, and then he just keeps pouring and pouring and pouring and pouring the tea, to get the point across to the student.
If you're already full, there's no room.
Yeah, got to make room for it.
Yeah. If you're already so full of yourself, there's no room to go. And
Sorry.
yeah, I experienced that expectation thing, a funny one, when I lived up north, and the word had spread throughout the tree planting community through British Columbia and Alberta, both apparently. And I would have random people show up on my doorstep in the middle of the woods on a mile-long driveway, knock on my door, and wanted me to do healing work on them. And this one day I opened the door and there's this guy, and he looked at me and he asked me, "Are you, so-and-so?" And I said, "Well, yes, I am." And he said, "But you're a lot younger than I expected from what I've heard." I said, "Well, give me 40 years and I'm sure I'll at some point meet your expectations and have white hair and all the other stuff you're looking for, but this is me and this is what you get." So, yeah, it's always interesting when people are actually are confronted by their expectations, and their expectations and reality are just not gelling. But anyway.
Well, that's the thing, if you're seeking, you need to seek realizing that you're seeking to change yourself, so you need to be open to that. If you reject everything, Sorry, didn't mean to go on about that again. Pet peeve,
so Rita says, "Spider information, very insightful. Thanks for asking, Bobby, and answering Siofra. You're welcome. You never know what you're going to get with me." Bobby says, "That's good to know, Beth." Oh, let's see. I think I missed a few spots because there we go.
I'll just go back to them.
Beth says, "When I was young, I did practice unclad, but I'm a granny now." Well, I did a lot of that stuff too. Bobby says, "Yes, spiders always transmute information to me by numbers of synchronicity of 3. Desiderata says, "Any spell recommendations for not having your power electric shut off?" No. Go to a community action group in your town and find out if you can get help. We have one here in our community. So a lot of times there are services available if you're about to lose power. So that's the only thing I can recommend. I make use of those things when I have
I
to.
don't recommend going to the office and doing a ritual there in front of the person.
No, that could get the newspapers involved though, so you never know. It could be a weird thing. Bobby says, "Well, Beth, Granby magic is also great." I think Granny magic. Sundrop says, "I'd like to have a physical magical community." Yeah, and it could be nice, but sometimes you end up with
Yeah, we keep running into it could theoretically be nice, and the practical part not so much. But
yeah, Sundrop says that might mean me committing to a coven. And then you're with a group of people who are not all on the same page and not all on the same level of development. So
not that there's anything wrong with those type of approaches, we just haven't had the best luck with them.
yeah. Beth says, "Bobby, Granny magic has been the best in my life's journey." Me too. Bobby says, "I'll bet, Beth." Desiderata says, "Thank you, Bobby. I'm a little bit nervous about her. That's kind of a long-term commitment." Beth says, "Covens were great back in the day. Now I'm solitaire. And when I gather with a handful of women my age." Yeah, I sort of have a similar kind of energy about that too. And it's difficult to know where people are at because they can get like the the key phrases and stuff like that down, but do they have the substance that goes behind that? And it can take a while to uncover whether they actually know what they're talking about. And so many people out there just trying to get views and likes and be influencers and so forth, and that's not what we're doing here. It's like, if I influence people in a positive way, great, but that's not the point of this, is to just be available and answer questions as I can, and be willing to say I don't know when I don't know. So that's a... Bobby says, Hecate is demanding, but she is understanding and protective. Carolee says, I love spiders, the web of weird. Desideratum says, regarding spell ideas, probably non-deity works. Well, no, actually a deity might be the best option for an emergency kind of thing. But, like I said, community action groups would probably be more likely. Bobby says, spiders are super ancient beings. Beth says, we are all on the same level. We're dear friends and work wonders together.
Well, awesome.
Awesome. Carolee says, I practice alone or when one of my best friends comes over. I'm Taurus, she's Scorpio. Cool. Finding people that you can work with is a gift. Finding a partner that you can work with is like a miracle.
They remind me of Scorpio is water, right? Not fire?
Yeah. People often think of Scorpio as fire because that's how it's represented as far as like sexual activity and stuff like that, which people associate with fire, but it is a water sign.
Okay, that's what I thought. But
Sagittarius is the fire sign that follows.
Okay.
Bobby says, I am Capricorn, so black is my main fetish color. I'm Capricorn too, and I like black as well. Depends on the position, on the situation as far as it goes. Desideratum says, no, but I'm disabled, wheelchair bound, magical support, including mundane, is my game plan. Good. I'm wishing you luck. So hopefully the powers that be will find a way to get you the help that you need. And, the opportunities will come to you so that you can succeed in staying warm and having light. Heidi says, I heard a loud vibration sound in my room last night when I was dozing off to sleep. It was so loud it woke me up. This is the second time. I charged my crystals and other items. Can that be the cause? Not necessarily, because I have heard that too. And I think it might be a Kundalini energetic thing that's happening. But who knows? It could be your clair abilities are opening up to certain vibrational sounds, which the Kundalini can do as well. Beth says, oh, let's tell each other a zodiac sign. I'm Aquarian. Carolee says Taurus. Bobby says, hello there, Aquarian. Hello, Taurus the bull.
I'm Virgo, for what that's worth.
Carolee says, a moo. Bobby says, laugh out loud. Yes. And the thing is there are more than 12 personality types in the world, so... Grumpy Owl says Aries. Aaron says Aries. Sundrop says Leo. Perfect name for you then. My daughter's a Leo. Hottie says Aries here. Rita says Pisces.
I once had a friend who kept telling me
no
every
Aquarian?
time I do something, he said, that's a very Virgo thing to do. I started getting so annoyed with hearing that all the time, I told him I was no longer a Virgo. I had to see.
I stopped being a Virgo. So
I didn't, but it was just that.
Sean says, are twin flames real? And I said, I hope not. Because it sounds like a horrible thing. And it sounds like it's a setup for torment and love disaster and everything else the way it's described. And conflict and everything else. And I'm not about that. I think if you're looking for someone to be with, if there are twin flames, they would be the last person you'd want to be with, because from the description it's all conflict oriented, and it seems to me a good excuse that people are using to explain away toxic relationships with other people instead of working on yourself and finding a partner that actually is compatible. So that's my take on it. I could be wrong, but I'm like, yeah, that doesn't sound like a good thing. So Julia says Libra, but have Aries moon and Scorpio ascendant with Neptune, Venus, and Mercury all in conjunct to each other and ascendant in Scorpio. Sean says spiritual growth. Not necessarily. Just because you're going through conflict doesn't mean it's good for you. Rita says, hell yeah, that's a setup. And Kara says, yeah, I know, right? Ruth says, I'm a Virgo too, and I love black. You don't have to be a Capricorn to love black. All right. Beth says, awesome, Julia. Fifth born daughter says, Sagittarius here. And Sean says, thank you. You're welcome. You don't have to take my advice, obviously. So, and that's the thing. It's like, I'll tell you what I think. You can ignore it completely. And that's perfectly fine because it's your life, your path, and you have to decide which way it's going to go. It's entirely up to you. So we're at our hour and 30-minute mark, which is a surprise. We're having a great time, so this has been lovely. So I guess we have to wrap it up and say bye to everybody. Desideratum says, thank you for well wishes. Those booming sounds may have something to do with intense solar storms we've been having. Really active solar cycle this time. Well, we're in like the peak this year and next year of the 11-year cycle. Beth says, I totally agree on the twin flames. Kara says, I'm a Cap on midheaven and I love black and purple. Yep, purple's my main jam too. Ruth says, oops, sorry for the Caps. Lock all, that's fine. Much love and safe travel, Sheila says. Rita says, have a good night and week ahead. Aetha says, have a great week and trip. Grumpy Owl says, I like black too, but green is my favorite. I also like green. Depends on the color. Sundrop says, have a safe trip. Atheist says, be safe and have fun. Sundrop says, we'll miss you. So maybe we still see you on Saturday. Love to everybody. Blessed be. Have yourselves a fantastic week. And if you have any questions, you can contact me via Facebook or my email at shifrasmagicalcove@gmail.com.
And thank you all for all the hearts and things.
Yes, and we really appreciate that. So lovely, and I guess good day, good night, good afternoon, depending on where on the planet you are. Bye.
Bye.